Hi guys, Mike here. Hey, just want to continue on with the principle of entering and leaving. And just simply today, just want to focus on Paul said something interesting. He said, temptations and trials will come and they're going to be common to life. But when they do come, God's going to make a way of escape. And so God's pattern, we talked about patterns and principles. God's pattern is never an escape from, but it's always an escape to. Let me explain that a little bit. I've talked before about Abram and coming out of Ur of the Chaldeans into the promised land, but it wasn't an escape from Ur. It was so that he could come into the promised land. And out of that, there was a name change in his life from Abram to Abraham because his relationship had changed. He'd come from something to something better. Israel was the same. They were in Egypt in slavery, and he took them from slavery into the promised land, although that was a little bit of a journey. It says in Deuteronomy, and I'll put the scripture up when I find it properly, I think it's 6:23, but it says that he's taken us out so that we can go in, and that's the principle here. When we think about crisis in our world, and we think about the crisis at the moment with the pandemic and stuff, we think about escape, we think about avoidance, we think about problems, we think about the difficulties that we're in, we think about punishment and correction if you say the word crisis. But God's view is quite different. Think about this for a moment. You were taken out of sin into something better. He didn't hate you because you were in sin, but he wanted to bring you into that something better, that righteousness, that holiness. And the transition, that's the crisis, is the transition. Going from the from to the to is the transition. And we have to go through that transition. You just can't get into heaven. You've got to be born again. That's the transition from sin to righteousness. God's more interested in where we're going than where we've been. So I'll leave it there today. Encourage you with that. God is more interested in where you are going than where you've been. So be encouraged. Bless somebody this weekend. Have a great one.